Do you personally dislike homosexuals?
Of course, they are disgusting. What sort of people are they?
That was the president of Uganda in 2014. That was the day after he signed into law a really radical piece of legislation. It was referred to worldwide as the Kill the Gays bill, because the original version of that law called just for that, called for executing people for the grave crime of being gay. Now, if you've been watching this show from the beginning, you might remember that we covered the fight over that law extensively at the time, not just because it was so extreme, but also because there was a big American connection to it. Some of the architects of that bill were Americans, radical, anti-gay, evangelical activists and preachers who went to Uganda to sell what they couldn't get done here in this country to a different country where they thought they could get away with it. These groups carried on a multi-year campaign to get radical anti-gay legislation passed in Uganda. And they succeeded. In 2014, the Kill the Gays law was signed into law in Uganda. And what happened next was interesting. It was not just the expected legal challenges within that country. We also saw a very strong stand from the Obama White House at the time. This was from the Obama administration's press release at the time. Quote, "We want human rights abusers worldwide to know their misdeeds are not unnoticed, and would-be human rights abusers to understand that there are consequences for engaging in such actions. The State Department is therefore taking steps to restrict the entry into the United States of specific Ugandan individuals involved in serious violations or abuses of human rights, including those determined to have committed such violations or abuses against LGBT individuals." That was the Obama administration in 2014. The Obama administration also pushed that country in other really specific ways. They canceled joint military exercises that the U.S. had planned with Uganda. The Obama administration pulled millions of dollars that had been planned to be given to that country in support of their country's policing. The U.S. at the time had planned to open a national public health institute in Uganda. Instead, the Obama administration withdrew the millions of dollars it had planned for that endeavor and moved the entire institute to another country instead. The Obama White House used all these powers at its disposal. And it seems to have made a difference. I mean, those efforts were not the only reason that Uganda's anti-gay law fell apart in 2014, but it fell apart. The law was challenged in court there in Uganda by human rights activists and civil rights groups, by MPs and academics and journalists. It was eventually struck down by Ugandan courts on technical grounds. But the big shove on this issue from the United States, by all accounts, made a difference. Now, in 2023, it's back. It's worse in some ways. And this new legislation, once again, comes against a backdrop of Americans being involved in it. Once again, a backdrop of U.S. anti-gay evangelical groups pouring resources into advocating for this anti-gay agenda in Uganda. And now that same Ugandan president, the one who said he thinks gay people are disgusting, he has now signed into law an even harsher piece of legislation than what was passed in 2014. This new bill imposes, yes, the death penalty for what they call aggravated homosexuality. Life in prison for anybody engaging in gay sex. This new law makes it illegal to even advocate for LGBTQ people to have rights. Even advocacy of gay rights carries a penalty of 20 years in prison. If you are LGBTQ, you are living in Uganda right now, it is an understatement to say the situation on the ground there is terrifying. Lots of people are fleeing the country. Other people have not left their homes since the legislation was signed into law for fear they will be targeted either by the government or by mob justice. So it's happening again. This time it's worse. Here's a question for us. Is there an American government response that could be helpful here in the way that the U.S. response, that strong response, was helpful in 2014? How much of a special responsibility does the U.S. have in fixing things, given the role of certain Americans in cultivating this stuff over there? But also, does the U.S. have a special opportunity as a country, not just a responsibility to do it, but an opportunity to help? given that we've done it before. I mean, so far, the Biden administration has talked about measures, is considering measures that very much track exactly with what the Obama White House did the last time around when this was in the headlines in 2013 and 2014. The question is whether or not 10 years down the road, that's enough. Whether the U.S. could be doing something else or pushing even more aggressively. Because the Ugandan government obviously knew what to expect from us. They saw it 10 years ago. They went ahead and did it anyway this time, in full anticipation of what we would do. So can the U.S. response be amped up to account for that? For how much more danger people are at, particularly since we are part of the problem for how we got into this mess in the first place. Where do we go from here?